Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff, and today we've got a little bit of a different video. So today we're going to be taking a look at these here. This is a Kershaw 3-knife pack, the assisted open pack. And this is one of the things that they do, you know, right around the holiday season. They release, you know, these different, I guess, kind of gift pack things. And these have always been a lot of fun to me. Like when I was a high schooler, I loved these. And to this day, I think they're still pretty interesting, especially the ones from Kershaw, because even though these are really cheap, I mean, this thing was 20 bucks for 3 knives, you know, so we're looking at like 7 bucks a knife. The knives are still good. I mean, not great, but they're good, right? And so they've always been really interesting to me. And so I wanted to pick these up, give them a little bit of review, let you guys see them, you know, are these things that are worth getting family members? I think these are great gift knives, honestly. If it's a good knife, these are great gift knives, especially for kids, I think. I mean, you know, kids age 12-ish, right? But at the same time, too, I'm not sure I want to give these a full review. So what I've decided to do is put the unboxing and the review in the same video. You could hear the fan on my truck going. My truck's been having some problems with the cooling system, and I've been working on those today. I'm letting the engine idle. I think I might have a leak in my coolant system, so I put some of that K-seal in my system, letting my engine kind of warm up and idle for a little bit, get that stuff mixed in there. So that's going to be going on. I might pause the video and go take care of that here in a second. But yeah, so about these knives here. We got 3 knives, a 3-inch blade, a 2.9-inch blade, and a 3.15-inch blade. All of them have 3CR13 steel. And so, yeah, that's why I didn't want to really give these their own review, because I don't think they're going to stack up real well to a lot of other knives, right? Just because they're not made with the best materials, and they're not meant to be, right? But I do think it's worth taking a look at these. So, like I said, I'm going to do the unboxing and the review in one video. And at first, I was kind of playing around with the idea of like going out somewhere, unboxing all these and cutting some stuff and giving a review kind of like that. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. I hate reviews. I hate unboxings that are a review, because for me, it's not enough. And no offense to people who do that. I mean, once you become a knife enthusiast, sometimes, you know, you get a feel for, you can feel something and tell if it's good, right? Right out of the box, you can tell if something is good or not, if it's your type of thing. But for me, I like to test things out. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this unboxing right now. I'm going to carry these for a few days, and then we're going to give kind of a review for all of them. And we're going to put it all into one video. So it's going to be different from my other reviews, but kind of the same at the same time. So let's go ahead and get into these with the CJRB large pyrite that has antifreeze on the blade. Whoops. Let's go ahead and crack into this. Yeah, holy cow. I said this before in a couple of videos. This thing is stupid sharp. This knife came ridiculously sharp out of the box from Artisan. Alright, let's get that first one out. This is the bigger one and also the ugliest, in my opinion. Let's go ahead and get this next one. Probably the best looking one in my opinion, also the smallest. Don't you just love blister packs? Ugh. And that one, which kind of looks like some other Kershaw models that have been released. But I'm going to set those there. I'm going to go take care of my truck real quick, and we'll be back. Hopefully that fixes the problem, and I hope that wasn't too bad on the audio. All right, so let's take a look at these things. Let's start out with this one. Kind of a Warncliffe blade. Take the little blade protector off. It cants upward, which is very, very useful. Full-size knife. I got a full grip on it. These are GFN scales. But oh my goodness, look. That pocket clip is perfect. It's a small clip. It's inset with flat screws, not reversible, which is a shame, but yeah, you know, that's pretty comfortable. That clip kind of stays out of the way too. Lockup looks good. Let's close it. Speed safe. Centering is off a little bit. It's speed safe. You know, you got that repeatable action. Thumb stud. Yeah, as far as assisted knives go, speed safe is a good assist. Got a tiny bit of blade play. No lock rock, but tiny bit of blade play. Can probably adjust that out. Satin finish on the blade here. Honestly, not a bad looking knife. Thumb studs are a little bit sharp and pointy. Hollow grind. Pretty thin blade stock. Yeah, not bad. Again, $7 knife. That's actually pretty nice. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of complaints about that. They've got a little back spacer with the lanyard hole here, and the fitment is really nice, actually. Very impressed with that. They could have fit a little more blade in here for the blade to handle ratio, but yeah, not bad. Definitely a knife that I can see being very, very useful. Alrighty, next up, the tactical one, the smallish one. So right away, I love the looks of this guy. Great drop point blade, hollow grind again. This looks like a couple of models that they have out, but I can't remember the names of any of them. Actually, this kind of reminds me of their new, the Launch 16, I think, as far as the handle goes, and it doesn't have a Tonto blade, but very, very similar. Let's look at that lockup, pretty good. The clip on this one I like a little bit less. Flat screws, but it's not inset to the scale. It's not quite deep carry. It's one of Kershaw's disc clip, which is a fine clip. Ergonomically, yeah, I can feel that clip quite a bit. Yeah, that clip stands up quite a ways. I can feel it. Small handle, so it's very pronounced. I do like the jimping up here, though. It's actually located in a pretty nice spot. Let's close this guy up. Centering on this one is perfect, if you can see that. There you go. Perfect centering. Speed safe, very snappy. Very snappy. Assisted knives are not my favorite thing. They're not my go-to, but you know, like I said, speed safe is a good assist if that's what you want to go with. I really do like the design of this knife. This thing is really fantastic. Yeah, you know, Kershaw, if you ever want to reuse this design, recycle it, making it some different materials, maybe as a manual, I think that would go over really, really well. But yeah, very cool knife. Honestly, kind of a simpler build than the first one I looked at, but I definitely do prefer the styling. I wish I had the same clip as that other one. That's my biggest complaint with this thing right now. But yeah. Also, the texture on the handle, it's plastic, but it feels decent. Let's zoom in here a little bit. It's getting late in the evening. You guys probably aren't going to be seeing this. I've had a long week, long day. Yesterday, I just finished up a weekend of field work. You know, very exhausting, stressful weekend, but a good weekend. It's a really good weekend. And today, you know, back in class and stuff, had a 7:30 a.m. lab. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's got that little K texturing, the K for Kershaw. Kind of fun. All right, and the last one. This one also reminds me of a knife that they've released just recently, but look at that. Very nice, kind of Warncliffe blade, very Kershaw looking. The clip on this thing is really different. Flat screws, it's not inset. Also not quite deep carry. I don't really feel it in my hand, so that's good. Jimping up here is really nice. Got you in that little thumb ramp. Hollow ground blade. Very good ergonomically, honestly. That feels nice. They got you good access to the lock bar. Move that over. Close her up. Yeah, a little bit off center. Give that flipper tab a flip. Speed safe. And honestly, assisted knives that are this size and a little bit smaller are probably better than big assisted knives because they're more easy to operate one-handed. Yeah. Very, very snappy. yeah, so far, so good. I kind of like them. Do I have any paper here? Let me go grab some paper and we'll do some edge testing. Again, I apologize about the lighting, guys, but I gotta film on my schedule. My schedule's been crazy lately. So, yeah, got some receipt paper here. Let's go ahead and do some cuts. We'll start off with this guy. Oh. Oh, wow. It's a good edge. It's a good edge. This one. That's a good edge too. I like that. Okay, this one's got one little catch in it. Yeah, right there's a catch. But otherwise, very good. Not bad at all. Alright, that is probably going to conclude the first impressions portion of this video. I got other things to do tonight and it's getting dark. But, yeah, overall, these are 3 very impressive knives for the price. And honestly, yeah, these are kind of great budget knives. That's my first impression so far. I'll carry these a little bit, and then we'll do a full comprehensive review, which for me is going to be in a while, but for you is going to start right now. Alrighty, guys, let's go ahead and do some size comparisons of these 3 knives. First of all, I guess it makes sense to kind of compare them to each other. I've got them ordered here from largest to smallest. Let's get some blade length measurements on these things. So, go all the way back. This one, I think the box said this was supposed to be a 2.9 inch blade. I'm getting this is just a hair over 3. So, some wrong measuring going on there. This one, oh, this one's at 3 inches exactly. Maybe this one is the... I mean, this knife is definitely smaller. Let's see what happens if I measure right up at that tip. Okay, yeah. I guess that is 2.9. I was measuring back here. Okay, makes sense. Let's measure the big one. Yeah, just a little bit over 3 inches. So, overall, even though this is the biggest one and this is the smallest one, they're all fairly similar in size and not very large knives at all. Go ahead and just throw a ruler down there. I don't know, just in case. Also, my desk is covered in little rock fragments. In fact, my desk is covered in big rock fragments too. Got a beautiful piece of fluorite. Let's go ahead and get our size comparison knives out here. See if we can do these all in one go. Let's see. There's the, you know what, we'll do like this. There's the Rat 1. And here's the Rat 2. There we go. Let's go ahead and bring our Civivis out here. There's the Praxis. Here's the Elementum. Not bad. Let's get our USA made comparisons out here. PM2. And the bug out. There we go. And that's all we're going to do for size comparisons. Now, this is actually the last part of the video I'm recording. Yesterday I did go and I recorded the cutting footage part of the video that you're going to be seeing here in just a minute. And in that video, I talked about how this one had a little bit of a weaker assist and that it was off-center. I just gave it a quick turn of the pivot last night. Centering is good. Assist feels just as strong as the others. So, there we go. Let's go ahead and go get that other footage done. Alrighty guys, it has been a little more than a week. And it's time to talk about these 3 Kershaw assisted knives. So I did carry these a little bit on and off, not super extensively. Again, this is kind of an atypical review, but I did carry them a little bit, enough to kind of get to know them a little bit, I think. This is surprisingly ergonomic. I kid you not, that feels good. Let's go ahead and talk about these one by one. We'll go over them individually, and we'll start with the biggest one. There's a lot about this knife that I like, but this is honestly the one that I think is the least attractive. This one just, the aesthetics of this appeal to me less than the other ones. I'm not really a big fan of these kind of slim Wharncliffe blades. It's just a very plain looking knife to me, but it is a great shape for general ADC. It's a great size. Like I said, this is the biggest one in the group. Ergonomically, it's pretty great. Honestly, there's nothing to complain about here. The ergonomics work out really, really well. This blade is a Wharncliffe straight edge. It does cant upward. And so if you get it in the grip like this, you basically got this claw growing out of your arm. Great for utility cuts, great for opening packages. Because that edge cants upward, if you're doing long slices, that edge is going to stay in your cut, and it's going to be really, really powerful. So great blade shape, honestly. The next thing I like about this knife is the pocket clip. This one has the best pocket clip of any of these. Let's take a look at that. Perfect pocket clip. I mean, they couldn't have done it any better. Actually, they could have. They could have made it reversible, but they didn't. It's an $8 knife, right? Great clip, deep carry clip. It's nice and small and thin. I don't feel it in my hand at all. It's countersunk into the scales, and the screws are flat. And so in and out of the pocket, this thing is a dream. It's a breeze. Clip's a little bit tight, but it should break in. Yeah, it carries really, really nicely. Get your hand in there, move it around. This is not a huge knife. It's pretty slim, fairly lightweight. So yeah, definitely an easy knife to carry. I also like that it has this back spacer with the integrated lanyard loop. That's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of back spacers aesthetically. And if you're going to put a lanyard on your knife, I think this is the best way to make most people happy. We didn't prioritize a lanyard over the clip, and you still got a lanyard hole, so it's great. You do have multiple deployments, a flipper tab, and thumb studs. Now, the thumb studs are pretty pokey. Put my hand in something. The thumb studs are pretty pokey. Not my favorite thumb studs. Honestly, they're a little bit sharpish. Pretty thin and narrow and just not super comfortable. But let's talk about the action. This is an assisted knife. All three of these are assisted. We know this. This one has the weakest assist of the bunch, I feel like. But that might also be... Yeah, this one needs the pivot tightened. So that could help too. A little bit of blade play on there. And yeah, it's coming off center. I did tighten the pivot once, but it looks like it's worked its way off again. So, easy fix. Access to the lock bar is great. Very, very easy knife to use. Let's go ahead and just do a little bit of cutting here. Let's grab this big old piece. So, 3CR steel. Not amazing, right? But the blade itself has excellent geometry. We already talked about how it's got a hollow grind. Very, very good geometry. Yeah. It's going to work for you just fine. No worries right there. Comes down to a pretty decently thin edge too. Let's look at that tip. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and grab our rope. Not bad, not bad. Probably not going to do great here because it's a Wharncliffe. Actually, you know what? Fairly decent. Fairly decent. I'll give it that. And let's just do one cut on the pool noodle. I'm running out of pool noodle, and it's November, so buying more pool noodle could be a challenge because everyone's put their summer stuff away. But perhaps I'll have to make a stop by Dollar Tree. They usually have stuff like this sitting out forever, so. All right. That actually felt amazing. Look how smooth that came out. That's awesome. So yeah, honestly, besides being 3CR steel, which, you know, is not going to set the world. By the way, I appreciate that they're honest about that. They tell you it's 3CR steel. They don't try and hide behind the high carbon stainless or, you know, just say stainless steel. They tell you on the box, like, this is 3CR steel. And so I appreciate that. But yeah, it's not going to blow you away performance-wise. But the blade itself is actually just really, really darn good. It's a very useful blade shape. And it's got a hollow grind. It's gonna get your EDC tasks done. So there's the first one. Basically, the pros: great pocket clip, great ergonomics, and the blade is a very functional EDC blade. Cons: I think it's ugly, but that's subjective. And yeah, this one's seems to be the only one that's been working its pivot loose multiple times. I didn't Loctite the first time, so you know it's an easy fix. But yeah, just pretty cool. Alrighty, next one. This one, to me, is kind of the most well-rounded of the three, and we'll talk about why here in a little bit, but there we go. Now, this is a very classic Kershaw-looking knife, right? Kershaw has a very distinctive design language. A lot of their knives are very kind of futuristic looking. Like this knife here, it's a very distinguishable shape. It's very weird, but I like it. So yeah, this is definitely in the vein of a lot of Kershaw designs, and I think that's cool. Kershaw's design language is a little bit polarizing. I feel like I've heard some people say that they think that Kershaw's look ugly. Some people love them. Personally, I think they look really, really cool. So there we go. But yeah, so yeah, this knife is the most well-rounded, like I said. This is the medium-sized knife, so, you know, we're already kind of in a Goldilocks range, although all three of these knives are not large knives. These are all very, very manageable knives. This one's got, what, a 3.3-inch blade. This one's like a 3-inch, and this one's like a 2.9. So none of them are huge, but yeah, just pretty EDC-sized. So let's start with the ergonomics on this thing. Great ergonomics, maybe not quite as good as this one, but very, very good. One thing this knife has that's a huge upgrade is it's got like this little thumb ramp with jimping in it. Really, really nice jimping. And for the size of the knife, that's actually where my thumb lands. And I put my thumb in that little poon spoon. It's not really a poon spoon, it's a thumb ramp. But yeah, get myself in there and I'm locked in. The rest of the knife has a pretty neutral handle. It's a little bit blocky. I do feel the clip in my hand. Definitely more than I did on this one. But overall, the ergonomics are not bad. This is definitely something that I could use. Maybe not for prolonged periods of time. I would start to feel that pocket clip, but the ergonomics are not bad at all. Let's go ahead and talk about that pocket clip. I think this is the worst pocket clip. Yeah, this is probably the worst pocket clip, excuse me, of the bunch. So we do have flat screws. It is not inset. It's got this big sharp point there, and that's what I can feel in my hand. Not the best. Also, just the way it's positioned back here, I feel this edge a little bit. In and out of the pocket. Let's go ahead and take a look. It works fine. Honestly, it's not as tight as that other pocket clip was, and it slides in fine. So in the pocket, it's not bad. In fact, it's a pretty great pocket clip for in the pocket. The whole knife, again, pretty small, easy to carry, fairly lightweight. But the pocket clip, I don't like it in the hand. As a pocket clip, as far as holding the knife in your pocket, it works great. This knife carries fine, but in the hand, I really don't like this clip. There's a better view of kind of the texture we've got going on the handle. I like it. It does add a little bit of grip, but I think it's mostly just for aesthetics, but pretty cool. Here's the blade, kind of this modified sheep's foot drop point, that kind of weird Kershaw blade shape that we were talking about. Also, excuse the thing on my nose. I was in the field last weekend, and I'm hammering away at this big chunk of gneiss, and little bits of rock are flying around, and one cut my nose, and yeah, it's just been annoying. I don't know if any of you have ever had cuts on your nose. They bleed a lot, and for a long time, noses bleed, but yeah, so that's what that is. Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the action. Again, assisted. Now, this flipper tab is a little bit bigger. This one is flipper tab only. There's no jimping on flipper tab, but I don't really think you need it. Unlike with a manual flipper where you need a little bit of traction, here you just need a little bit of pressure on flipper tab and the spring takes over. So it might not be needed as much. Still, I'd like to see it. I like jimping on my flipper tabs. This one has a very strong assist. Like, that thing rockets, and it's got recoil on it. Very, very strong assist, but it's actually still pretty easy to close. Now, I've talked about this before. We're going to talk about it again. Assisted knives are not my go-to. I prefer a manual knife, but I think the assisted knives definitely have a place, and especially at this price point, I think it's absolutely fine. And if you're going to get an assist, Speed Safe is a good one to go with. A Speed Safe assist is very reliable. It's simple. It'll last a long time. It's easy to use. Not all assists are created equal. Speed Safe is a very, very good one. So I like that. And yeah, fires out, and this knife is still easy to use one-handed. So I like that. Another thing with the action and the one-handed ability with this knife is that the access to the lock bar is perfect. You see here they gave you a cutout so you can get to that lock bar easy. Easy, easy, easy. Fantastic lock bar access. Very, very good to see on such an inexpensive knife. Alrighty, let's go ahead and let's do so. Oh, something I forgot to mention with the pod clip and the lanyard hole. Unlike the last knife, in this one, they did kind of prioritize the lanyard hole over the clip. You can see that right there. Not the greatest. I wish they'd gone with the backspacer thing, but they didn't. So, what you gonna do about it, right? Well, I know what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to complain about it on a video that I put on the internet, because that's what I do. So, let's go ahead and do some cutting. This one also has a hollow grind. And this was the one that I used the most. And it's a little bit dull. Or duller. I think it should be fine. If we really need to, I could just give it a little strop. That's one good thing about 3CR steel, right? So let's see if that helps. Woo! Yep, that helped. So the blade shape is an excellent blade shape. I really, really like this blade shape because it's kind of, you've kind of got that pokiness. You've also got great utility cuts. You do have a little bit of belly though. So this is a very well-rounded blade shape in my opinion. There's a utility cut. There's another. Yeah. Very, very useful little blade shape. Okay. Let's go ahead and grab our rope. Easy peasy. I predict this will do a little bit better than the last one. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's great. That's wonderful. Look at that. Fantastic. Say what you will about the aesthetics, right? These types of blade shapes are just fantastic. In fact, honestly, the mix between a sheep's foot and a drop point might be the most ideal EDC blade shape. Let me know what you guys think, but it's kind of what I think. All right, let's go ahead and get a little cut here. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. They've got their geometry down on these things. And I'll be honest, too, the edges weren't bad. Out of the package, the edges weren't bad, as in sharpness and consistency of the edge angle. Definitely not terrible. So I will say just now, I did notice while I was bearing down, cutting down onto the table, I did push the liner over a little bit, locking it up more securely. But I had a little bit of lock stick when I unlocked it. It appears the knife is still functioning fine, so, you know, maybe not a pro or a con. Let's go ahead and, yeah, pros and cons. Pros is I like the size, I like the overall design. I think the blade is very functional. I like the ergonomics decently. My biggest complaint with this one is the pocket clip. Very bad pocket clip. Definitely should be reworked a little bit. But other than that, very, very cool knife. Also, this one has a bead blast finish. This one has a satin finish, and the satin finish on this one I do prefer. I wish this had that satin finish. I'm not a big fan of bead blast, but yeah, there we go. Alrighty, our last one, and this is the one that honestly, to me, probably is the most aesthetically appealing. It's a very classic drop point, all blacked out, very tactical looking. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of a drop point version of the Launch 16. They've got that out in a Tonto right now. If they made a drop point and they made it a lot smaller, I feel like it would look very similar to this knife. Very cool looking little knife. Emphasis on the little. This guy, he's tiny. Now, I can get 4 fingers on him, just barely. My pinky's just barely holding on. Ergonomically, he's fine. He's got jimping up here that works all right. This one's probably the least impressive, ergonomically speaking, just because the handle's so small. It kind of tapers out this way, and the clip, I definitely do feel this clip is a little bit tall. And this is kind of Kershaw's standard looking clip. This is very reminiscent of the clips you'll find on the Natrix, on the bare knuckle, which isn't a bad clip. And here they do have flat screws. It just, on this knife here, I feel it because the handle's so short and it's so thin back here. But let's go ahead and put this guy in the pocket. In the pocket, the clip works great. And again, this knife carries well, right? No big complaints there. I will say the texturing on these scales are a little bit grabby, not cold steel aggressive grabby, but, you know, noticeable. This will probably chew your pants up over time. We also, you can see, speaking of that texturing, it's got like Kershaw's K, which is kind of cool. But yeah, the pocket clip, it's not bad, but I do wish that this had this pocket clip. This pocket clip is so good, guys. I can't even tell you. This clip is just amazing. So yeah, if all 3 of these knives had that clip, they would all be much better for it. Also, again, we did kind of prioritize the lanyard hole. So yeah. Let's go ahead, talk about the action. This one's also very snappy, very strong. Flipper only. Yeah, it rockets out of there. This one's a little bit, I mean, I'm still using it one-handed, no problem. But there is a little more resistance when I'm closing it than there was on that other one. But again, speed safe, can't go wrong, right? It's a fine assist system. Okay, let's go ahead and cut some stuff. So, drop point blade, hollow ground. Again, we've got a beautiful swedge up here. Absolutely fine slicing power right there. Drop point blade, very versatile. It's going to work for most things. Let's go ahead and bring out our little rope. There we go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. That did really, really well. That did stupid good. Better than a lot of knives, honestly. Not just compared to everything else today, but compared to a lot of things. That was pretty nice. All right, let's go ahead and get our pool noodle done. Short blades always kind of have fun with this, but we'll do it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that felt great. I did feel a little bit of a snag, but that's just because the blade is so short. I think I got caught in the choy a little bit. But yeah, great cutting right there. Nothing to complain about at all. So this knife, what are my pros and cons? Pros, I think it looks very cool. The blade works well. The ergonomics are fine. Cons, it's a little bit, I wish it was a little bit bigger. And the pocket clip, even though the pocket clip's not terrible, it could be, actually just making the knife bigger would have fixed the pocket clip issue. Honestly, the cons of this thing is that it's just a little bit small. And that's about it. So let's go ahead and talk about these things as a whole. 3 knives for 20, 25 bucks, right? Each of these knives is less than $10. And they're great. They're great knives. Now, obviously these aren't going to excite us horrible, snobby enthusiasts that much because, you know, we want to see our crisp detents. We want to see our gliding fall shut action. We want to see our super steels. We want to see our premium handle materials. We want to see fit and finish that's exceptional. But stepping back from that and look at these knives as $10 knives, there is honestly very little wrong with these. And the fit and finish is honestly really good for 10 bucks. And I appreciate that Kershaw does stuff like this, right? They've been releasing things that make the high-end enthusiasts very happy lately. Things like the live wire, things like, you know, some of the stuff they've had coming out of their launch series lately have been very impressive. They've been using steels like M4 and 20CV, and, you know, they've been doing a lot of really cool Magna Cut. They've done a couple of Magna Cut knives. So they're definitely trying to provide to the enthusiasts, the collectors, the hardcore knife guys. But they're also not forgetting the regular people, right? The regular everyday Joe who is not necessarily a knife collector but needs a knife. When he walks in to a store, he's going to buy a knife from the hardware store, right? He's not going to go online and look up reviews and stuff like this. If he needs a knife, he's going to grab one and he's going to use it. And if he can grab something that's very good quality for a very low price, I think that's an absolute win. The other thing too is obviously this is a holiday promotion set. So if you're looking to get someone a knife or, you know, knife related gift this Christmas, but they're not necessarily a knife person, or it's someone that you know wouldn't use an expensive knife. I mean, these are great little stocking stuffers, and I wouldn't feel bad about giving these knives to someone because I do feel like they last a little while. You know, I can still remember when I was in that kind of realm of knife user, right? Where I was, you know, anything over like $20, $30 was a lot to spend on a knife. It was a lot. I remember when I graduated high school, I've talked about this before, I bought a CRKT Fossil, and that was a $50, $55 knife at the time. And when I bought it, I was like, man, that was a lot of money to just drop on a knife all of a sudden. But that knife kind of changed how I looked at knives, right? It had the ball bearing action. It had this crazy design that was still functional. It was a very cool knife and opened my eyes to the wider world of knife collecting. And now here I am, you know, a couple years later. But I remember as a kid, as a teenager, growing up on the ranch, I went through a lot of pocket knives. I'd buy my pocket knives at Tractor Supply. I'd buy them at Ace Hardware. I'd buy them, you know, I bought a lot of Ozark Trail knives and stuff from Walmart, and I'd use them till they fell apart, and then I'd buy a new one. And that was just kind of the way it was, because I didn't really know any better, right? Obviously, I knew that high-quality knives were out there. I've been collecting, like, Blade Magazine and stuff, so I've been reading about, like, Benchmade and Spyderco. I knew about these things, but to me, it was always like, well, that's just unobtainable. I could never picture spending that much money on a knife, because why would I take my $180 Spyderco out to the hay meadow, right? I might lose it, and then I'd be out $180. I could damage it, I could break it, and then I'm out $180. It just didn't make sense to me at the time. And of course, now I realize that there is a balance between, you know, you get what you pay for a lot of times, right? And so if you buy a knife $480. Chances are it's going to be built a little bit better. It's going to have better steel. It's going to last you longer. And it might save you money in the long run because you're not going to have to be buying more knives that you're just replacing. You're not going to be moving through knives as quickly. And then, of course, you become an enthusiast and you buy all kinds of knives that you don't need anyways. So, it's kind of a self-defeating thing. But, still there's that fear of, what if I lose this knife? I think we've all probably had an experience where we give a friend or a loved one a knife because, as knife guys, that's how we show how much we love you. We trust you with a knife. But we've gifted knives to people who were afraid to use them, right? For example, I gifted my grandpa a long time ago a Civivi Hooligan. You guys remember that model? And he used it. I've seen him use it probably twice, but he keeps it, in the pouch on top of Grandma's piano. And it means a lot to him that I gave him that. The knife means a lot to him, but he doesn't want to use it because of that sentimental value. And also because, that knife, how much was that knife? Like $45-50. He didn't know that, but he knows I'm into all this type of stuff. So I think he thinks that knife's a lot more expensive than it is, so he doesn't want to use it. But there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with not wanting to use your expensive knives. Some of us get used to it, and some of us start to do it, but not everyone can. And that's where knives like this are great, where they come in handy so often. And people need knives. A lot of people need knives. They're very, very handy tools, and a lot of people use them hard. And it's always so sad to me when I see someone who's working hard using a pocket knife and they're using a crappy Imtech or some just horrible knife that they got at a hardware store, and I can see, the blade is about to fall out of the handle. I've seen guys break knives and hurt themselves and things like that, and it sucks. And so it's good to have affordable alternatives to those Imtechs and stuff that are actually well made. These knives were built by a company that gives a damn, and that goes a long way, right? These knives obviously will have to be replaced eventually. They're not going to last forever. Technically, nothing does, but these knives are going to have a little bit of a shorter lifespan than a little bit more expensive knife, especially when it comes to the blade. That 3CR steel is going to get sharpened through really, really quickly. However, that's also kind of a benefit, because if you're someone who's a hard knife user, but you're not, maybe you're not the best sharpener or anything, you don't have to be. You just throw this over your stone a couple of times and you'll put a working edge on it. It doesn't have to be a beautiful edge. Won't be for knife people like us, it's probably going to be a very ugly edge, but for a regular person, it's going to be fine. It's going to get the job done, and that's what's important, right? That's what's important. And so, yeah, you will sharpen the blade away eventually, but you'll get some good use out of the knife before that happens. I mentioned my grandpa a little bit earlier. This kind of idea is why I started doing my Cheap Knife Week video series. If you have not seen those series, what I do basically is I take knives that are under $30 and I carry them, I test them, I review them just like anything else I do, but I like to make it into a big event. We do like an entire week of videos instead of my usual one review a week. I do a review every day of the week, and then kind of Monday through Friday, and we do kind of a general thoughts conclusion video on Saturdays. And what I'm doing there is I go to places like Tractor Supply, Ace Hardware. I go to these places where I try and pick up very inexpensive knives, and I test them. I put them through the ringer to find those diamonds in the rough, to find the knives that are striking that balance between cheap, affordability, easy access to everyone, and decent quality. Because again, a lot of knives that you get in box stores, a lot of blister pack knives suck. They just suck, and they're dangerous, and no one should use them. And so I go looking for the exceptions. And honestly, these three knives here are exceptions to that rule. These would be great knives for someone to use. It's funny, when I was a kid, I talked about this again, I went through a lot of different knives. And to me, I kind of had this image of, or I had this idea that folding knives just weren't that good. Again, I said, I knew about Spyderco and stuff like that, but I thought those were kind of a different world. to me, folding knives were kind of, I thought they were meant to be just replaceable, right? You use them until you can't anymore, and then you get a new one. And I thought the pinnacle of quality was like fixed blades, right? I thought fixed blades were, if you want a knife to last, it was a fixed blade or like or a case knife or something like that. And my great grandpa, he made his own knives. He'd make his own knives out of files and things, and because he was unsatisfied with a lot of the knives he had. And I also remember too, so my great grandpa on my paternal grandmother's side, their family was from Sheffield, England. And when he came to America, he brought a bunch of Sheffield knives. And we still have in fact, my dad still got a couple of those original, like, gosh, how old are these things? Like 150 years old, almost 200 years old. They're ancient. But then also, my great grandfather, my grandfather, they would buy Sheffield, like, they had that connection to it, so they buy a lot. So I'm gonna have to break out some of those old knives and show them off here on the channel. I'm gonna go visit I think my dad has most of them now. I'm gonna go visit my family for Thanksgiving here in about a week, so maybe I'll ask my dad, hey, let's break those out and show them on a video or something. But that's kind of the general attitude towards a lot of knives, right? You go into the hardware store, and the pocket knives you have available, you just assume they're gonna be, they have a short lifespan. And I think that's unfortunate. And so knives like this I like seeing because they're made for the non-knife enthusiast. But I gotta say, I also love seeing these knives bringing kind of knife enthusiast elements to the lower tiers. Tip up carry, wow. Finally, right? Finally, it's starting to trickle down to the lower tiers. I never carried a tip up knife until I bought that CRKT Fossil. Every other knife I carried either had no pocket clip or it was tip down. And there's only one knife nowadays I still carry tip down. I do think there are some reasons to carry tip down. Maybe we'll make a video about that at some point. A little bit of a spicy take, but I generally think tip up is the better way to do it and the safer way to carry a knife, especially an assisted knife. I did have a couple of assisted knives go off in my pocket when I was younger because I'd bumped the flipper tab against something. One time, oh gosh, here's a story. One time I was getting in a tractor, and of course I've got a tip down knife. So it's sitting in my pocket like this. I'm right-handed, so it's on my right-hand side, which means that flipper tab is back here. I'm getting into the tractor, crawl up the steps, turn my body, sit down. I hit the armrest just right there on the flipper tab, and it deployed in my pocket. The tip stuck out. Luckily, I didn't hurt myself or anything, but that could have been a disaster, right? So, anyways, tangent, but yay, tip up carry. So, do these knives get a recommendation from me? Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. These are great. And heck, even if you are, most of the people that watch my channel, let's be honest, most of you guys are knife enthusiasts. Most of you guys have been in this game for a long time. A lot of you have probably been in this game longer than I have. But I think you could still find a use for these. I think these make great gifts. These would make great toolbox knives, great throw in your glove box type knives. These would be great gifts for youngsters, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. They're not bad knives. They're just not. Especially for the price. I would say they're downright incredible. They're downright incredible. And I applaud Kershaw for still doing stuff like this, for still realizing that there are people who need knives who just don't think to spend more than 20 bucks on a knife. So definitely like these. They do get a recommendation from me. If you see any of these in your Walmart this holiday season and you feel like, I want to pick those up, whether it's for you or for someone else, don't be afraid to. They're good knives and they'll make someone happy. So that's going to be it for today, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave it a like, comment below, and subscribe. Let me know too, did you like this style of video? This is a little bit different for me. This is a kind of fast track review. I unboxed and did the review in the same video, even though unboxing and this part of the video, we're about a week and a half apart. Let me know what you guys thought about that. Maybe we'll do this again in the future. It's going to be holiday season. There's a lot of these things coming out right now, and I always like reviewing them because they're a big part of my childhood holiday cheer. So I want to pass that on to some of you guys. So thank you so much for watching again. We already said all that crap. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go with this. We got to do a knife throw because tradition, so we're going to do that. But until the next video, I've been Gideon. Adios. Damn it! Oh, that was... Oh! Good enough.